Let's give a big round of applause to Dalena, Wallace, and Candace.
Thank you for having me here today. I was going to say this morning, but I think it's technically afternoon now, lunchtime. I'm really happy to be here. I love to talk about innovative education. It's something I'm extremely passionate about. As he mentioned earlier, I have been homeschooling for over a decade. I have 6 kids. I love it. I love homeschooling. It's been a great fit for my family, and yet I know that there are a lot of families that they just cannot do that. It's not an option for them. Perhaps they need both incomes, and so they don't have a stay-at-home parent who can educate the kids. And it seems to me like there needs to be more options between the stay-at-home, like homeschool, or a public school or a traditional private school, that a lot of families can't afford the tuition for that. So I've kind of began exploring what types of opportunities, what types of school models can be out there to offer some innovative options for families. I'll just kind of follow my slide here. I put together a presentation. As Carl had mentioned, I get to go lots of places for some reason, and I have been invited to just share about what's happening here in Wichita, but also elsewhere. I'm sorry. Is that my computer that did that? Do I need to turn off something? Oh, okay. And so I've been invited to kind of go and do these presentations, and I did one at HCC. I live near Hutchinson, and so I went to the Hutch Community College and did a presentation for their education students as they were kind of thinking about exploring what is it going to look like for them as they become teachers. Do they have to teach in a traditional brick and mortar school, and do the classrooms all have to look the same? So I was able to give this presentation, and I kind of tweaked it for this morning, but I did leave a few slides in here for you guys. So one thing that I would just like to state, and what has become obvious since the pandemic, is that schools should not be one size fits all. A lot of us have known that, and I think a lot of good educators know that, even in the public school system. They recognize that there should be more diversity, there should be an individualized learning opportunity for each student, and yet with the numbers that are in there, like the size of the classrooms and the size of the schools, it's just they are unable to sufficiently educate and sufficiently provide options for families and for the individual student. That's where microschools come in. That's where innovative education comes in. Innovative school models are trending. And just as a kind of a fun example, I gave this in that community college class. They were kind of a little bit familiar with who Elon Musk is and who Will Smith is. And I thought maybe I would try that here in this audience as well and just see. But I have a question for you, a little pop quiz. What do Elon Musk and Will Smith have in common? You see the options here. We have A, they both slapped Chris Rock. I didn't know if you guys really knew about that. I'm sure you know about that. Okay. B, they both build rockets. Or C, they both started innovative schools. Anybody have a guess? All right, C. All right, that would be the correct answer. Elon Musk. Here's a news article here. Elon Musk disliked his kids' school, so he started his own. Surprise, surprise. There goes Elon Musk doing something revolutionary again. So I just like the subtitle there. It's like, is he quietly revolutionizing education? He's so subtle about things, right? But he is a very revolutionary man. But that is what's happening in our culture. He is kind of indicating what's happening even at the smaller level, at the local level. And I'm really excited to highlight some of the schools here at the local level, right here in Wichita, and to be able to tell you guys about what's happening here. Okay, so Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith open a private school as well. And I just think this is very interesting. There are a lot of people opening private schools. Now, I can't speak to what these schools look like. I'm pretty sure Elon Musk has a pretty quality thing happening where he's at. I don't know here about this one. I kind of looked into it briefly, and it looked like there were some scandals involved, so I don't know. But all right, I want to highlight, a lot of people are just like, okay, I've never even heard the term microschool. Would you raise your hand for me if you have heard the term microschool before before this meeting here today? Okay. All right. Some of you have. Great. All right. So this is just kind of a visual here. What is a microschool? You can see this is a traditional mega public school. I can't remember where I got this image exactly, which one this was. But as I was driving from, my family and I vacation in Colorado often, and as we were driving through, I believe it was either Dodge City, might have been Garden City, there was a massive school that looked like a prison. I'm just gonna say, it was just concrete. There were hardly any windows in the place, and it was so huge. So I looked it up later, and I wish I had the numbers for you right now. But I cannot remember what the numbers were, but I was just blown away, and I was really saddened. It just doesn't feel right to me that schools should be that big. And this is just kind of a side note here. It's not in my slide, but I live in a small town, Partridge, Kansas. So it's a very small little rural town. We have 100-something people in the town. We have a public school that has been shut down. We've actually had two. Our elementary and our high school was shut down, and that is also trending, unfortunately. So all of these smaller community schools, these rural schools, are shutting down. And where I live, I can drive in about a 20-minute drive here, and I can go to 10 vacant public schools. And that really saddens me. And I just started to kind of feel burdened about the situation and seeing that these families no longer have these options within their neighborhood, within their community. And students are being bused for 2 hours a day, even kindergartners, to go. So they're consolidating their schools into these massive schools like this. And it just does not feel right to me. So here's the visual, microschools. We all know micro means small. And that's kind of what's happening. I have here on the far, let me see, that'd be your right. This is a picture of Northfield School of Liberal Arts. And I think you guys know Becky Elder. I know she's presented here before. She's the founder of Northfield. And it's right here by Friends University. They own both of those buildings. Those are homes. And they own both of them. And they have about 30 students. Last time I checked, they have 30 students in each of those homes. I love that. I love that they can offer this personalized, individualized opportunity for their students. So I'm going to move on, and I'm going to remember that I'm sharing this mic with Candace, and I'm going to leave her plenty of time. Okay, here's just kind of a general definition, microschool. I'll read it with you guys. Microschooling is the reinvention of the one-room schoolhouse, where class size is typically smaller than that in most schools, 15 students or less in a classroom. And there are mixed age level groupings. That's a key point. That's something that I love, and it's been a great thing for our family and our homeschool with my 6 kids. My oldest is almost 16, my youngest is 8. They work together, they learn together, they help each other. I think that's a wonderful dynamic to include in a classroom if you can. Generally, microschools do not meet all 5 days of the school week, and their schedules look different than a traditional public or private school. Class can be taught using a flipped classroom approach, a form of blended learning, though not all microschools focus on technology in the same ways. So we can utilize a lot of online resources. That's one of the things that's just amazing about our day and age. We have a lot of resources available to help lighten the load for teachers and help with the mixed ages. Okay. So I am here representing WISE, Wichita Innovative Schools and Educators. I put up here, if you guys want to get your phones out or whatever and take a picture, I will have several QR codes up here. So hopefully they'll work from you from a distance, but I'd love for you to go and check out our website. We have on there a directory of schools in the area. We have listings of some of our events. We meet monthly. And before I go further with that, let me tell you what WISE is. We are a group of educators. We are a group of school founders. I have 2 with me today. I know Candace is going to be speaking. She is the founder of Freedom Preparatory Academy. And then we have Pam McEwen. She's amazing. She is the founder of the Izora Elaine Dean Education Center. And I met her about 1.5 years ago. Before there was a WISE group, we didn't have an established group yet, but I was out just meeting people. I began exploring these microschools, and I started looking them up, and I honestly just did a Google Maps, okay, who's got a tutoring center, who's got schools, learning centers, whatever. So I met with Pam, And I found out she's amazing. And she's been doing this work kind of, sort of undercover, like a lot of these school founders have been doing. They saw a need and they acted on it. They didn't wait. They didn't like figure out and get permission and see like, oh, what do I need here, whatever. Even though she's highly qualified, both Candace and Pam have worked in the public schools. They have their teaching certification. And they're highly qualified, but they were working outside of the traditional school system to provide immediately for the immediate needs of their community and the families. So WISE represents a network. We are a network of microschool founders, innovative school founders, tutoring centers, homeschool co-ops. And I'll run through a few examples of what we have here. These are real-life examples right here locally of some of the microschools in Wichita. Green Gate Children's School is a nature-based study outdoor classroom with Katie Size, and she's been in operation over 10 years. And she started in her home, and she's branched out, and she has continued to grow, and she's still in operation. She's doing amazing things. Northfield School of Liberal Arts, I mentioned, that's the one that Becky Elder helped to found. And then the Izora Elaine Dean Educational Center right here, that's with Miss Pam. My kids call her Miss P. And then we have Wildflower Community School. And that's with Molly and Noah Stevenson. I'll show a slide with them and some pictures here. Green Gate Children's School, if you'd like to learn more about them, I guess I should have described them now that I have their slide up. But again, they are the outdoor nature-based classroom. And then Northfield School of Liberal Arts, okay, mentioned that several times. What I love about Northfield and some of these other innovative options is that they're also offering what I call a hybrid school option. So not everybody is a traditional, like even a small mini school that looks like and acts like one of the larger schools. Like they've decided we're outside of the box anyways. We're doing our own thing. We're being creative. And we realize that families, they're really listening to families, and families are saying, we want our kids to have time to pursue their other interests, to pursue their hobbies, to maybe even have a part-time job, to be active in their interests. Or we just want to spend more time as a family. We don't want them in school Monday through Friday, 8 to 3:30. So what a lot of these schools are doing is they're offering a hybrid learning model where they can do at-home study and then come together and learn together in a community in a classroom. That's Pam, Miss P. I would highly suggest you guys meet her afterwards, and even if you would love to have another speaker who's passionate about education and innovative education and has an amazing experience, an amazing story, she would be a wonderful person to have someday as a presenter. I'm actually genuinely clearing my throat, not that I'm trying to like hint. Okay, Molly and Noah Stevenson serve neurodiverse students on a mini farm in central Wichita. So they actually changed locations. They don't have this little mini farm anymore. They used to have all these animals and things, but this is actually a good thing that they don't have that because they grew. They had more students and they wanted room to grow, and so they were able to lease a larger building, but they're here in Wichita. And then that brings me to Candace Fish, and I'm going to leave plenty of time for her to talk about Freedom Preparatory Academy. And we'll also be open for we'll have a little Q&A time at the end, open for your questions, comments, any of that. So Candace, I'm going to turn it over to you. Right.
Okay, well, first of all, that is a terrible picture. I don't know where you got that. So thank you. I am Candace Fish, and as she said, I was an educator in Wichita Public Schools for many years. While I was raising my children, I had 5 children of my own, and through the years with them, we did lots of different things. For a while, they were in public school. For a while, they were in private school. I homeschooled for a while. And what I learned from that was that not one model fits every kid, and that there was good in all 3 of those, but there were also things that didn't necessarily work well in all of those. So for the last 11 years now, I started developing this idea, this concept that education could look different, and it could be set up in a way that every student gets what they need. This is the creation of Freedom Preparatory. So over these years, what I found was that When children are put in a classroom, they're put in a classroom based on one statistic. Does anybody know what that statistic is? Age. So because you're 5, you go to kindergarten. And maybe that works okay when you're 5 and in kindergarten. But when you're 10, you aren't necessarily a 5th grader. Not every child learns at the same rate. Not every child masters skills at the same rate. And that's the beauty of the homeschooling model, and what Dalena does with her own children and other kids, is that they can tailor that education to each individual child without that grade level. And so I thought, I wonder if we could create a school without grade levels. Could we create a school where it doesn't matter how old you are, we're going to assess what you truly need and how we can enhance your education best? And this is what we've created. At Freedom Prep, we have no grade levels. Our kids are in classes based on assessments that we do of their skills, and they're placed in classes that's kind of a homeroom setting, and those are all named. So our little ones, they're called Ignite. Then our next group up is Explore, then Investigate, Engage. All of our classes are all the way through high school. We're named classrooms instead of 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. So as we decided, after COVID, I don't know if you know, COVID kind of changed things. And it really changed things in education. And parents were looking for something different. So as I had developed this concept and kind of figured out what I wanted it to look like, all these parent groups popped up around the area. Parents that were very dissatisfied with what was going on in the public schools. And because of that, I decided I'm going to throw a bone out there and see what happens. And I did, and started posting on social media. And the first thing I posted of, hey, here's my idea, thinking about starting a school, this is what it would look like, free of grade levels. We're going to let kids learn the way they need to learn. We're going to do what's right for the kid. In 24 hours time, I had over 300 messages on Facebook. And I thought, ooh, I've hit on something. This is gonna work. And so I partnered with my friend Sarah McCosh, who I had taught with in the public school system, and we got together and got the ball rolling in this. And Dalena and in the WISE group, we kind of joked that I'm the micro school that wasn't, because we had every intention of being a micro school. We were gonna buy a house, we were gonna remodel it so that the bedrooms were classrooms and the kids could cook their own lunch in the kitchen, and this was our idea, and we thought this will be great. And then a year ago, we started having meetings to kind of introduce our concept, welcoming people in, letting them come and see what we were gonna look like. And by the time we opened our doors in August of last year, we had 134 students. That's not really a micro school. Last year, we were hugely successful. We allowed kids to work at the level that they needed. So if you come to our building when it's time for math, you're gonna watch kids walk all over the building. Kids that don't have a clue what grade they're in, because it doesn't matter. They go to the level that's right for them. I currently have a 6-year-old. He started, I guess he's still 5. He started last year as a 5-year-old. He worked through math so far that this year, as a 6-year-old, he's in a 3rd grade math class doing multiplication. If you put him in a public school system, that wouldn't happen. He wouldn't be allowed to work that high. But he's thriving. He can spell any word you ask him. Why hold that child back based on a grade level standard? I have kids that have been on IEPs their whole life, and if you're not familiar with that, that's the educational plan that we create for kids with a special education label. You couldn't pick those kids out in my school because they don't need that. When they go to math, they go to the level that's right for them, and they learn it to mastery. We don't move on from a concept until they get it. When they go to a reading class, they're going to a class that's a mixed age class with kids of all different ages, and they're getting what they need, and they move on when they're ready. The concept has been so good that this year we actually have 2 buildings. We moved our elementary kiddos to Northwest Christian Church. They partnered with us and said, yeah, sure, we'd love to have some kids here. So we have, I believe, 65 kids that would traditionally be kindergarten through 5th grade. And at their building. It's wonderful there. They've got 10 acres of land. They've got a big playground. Fantastic. At my building, I have kids that would be 6th grade through 12th grade. And I have another 85-ish kids there. And I'm still getting phone calls. Even though we've already started, I'm giving tours every day because parents are hungry for something different. it's worked incredibly well. I have a student that you'll see in just a moment. Last year when his mom called me, he came with an IEP about this thick, and she was like, I just don't know. He's dyslexic, he's dysgraphic, he's got dyscalculia, he's got all of these things, and he doesn't read in front of people. You can't make him read aloud. He's not gonna get up and present. And okay. And so for the first 6 months, people read to him, people helped him, and it was great. And by the end of the year, this kid wrote a story and asked the teacher if he could stand up and read it. And he did. And he did fantastic at it because we took off the pressure of here's who you have to be, and we just let Charlie be Charlie, and he's thriving. He's on our student council this year. His mother wept when I told her, oh yeah, he's gonna be on student council. She said, what? That would have never happened before. Right, but we allowed him to take off those barriers and to be able to be who he was meant to be. He's doing fantastic now. So, that being said, our whole mission is to be an affordable option. Like Dalena said, we have some phenomenal private schools in this town. We really do. But most of them come with a pretty hefty price tag. And so that's the difference at Freedom Prep. Our tuition is ridiculously low, so low that I won't tell you how much I spend out of my own pocket. But our goal was to be that homeschool model for a family that, for whatever reason, single parent, both working parents, could afford to come. And I rely on grants and donations and things, outside funding sources to help supplement so that my kids can continue to have this. We anticipate continuing to grow. It's working for so many kids. So many of our kids are getting what they need. Our kids get a 4-day school week. I'm here because I don't have school today. It's wonderful. It's so wonderful to have a 3-day weekend every weekend. Our day runs from 9 to 3. Our younger kids get a full hour for lunch, so they're not shoving down food and running. They get a full hour. They get to relax and enjoy lunch. That really benefits them. You don't have cranky kids in the afternoon. Our kids are happy. We have a what do I call it? Yeah, I guess year-round model. We take the month of July off, and that's all. My kids were still in school till June 28th. You know how many of them complained? None, because they're happy. They came back this last week, and over and over and over we heard, we're so glad to be back. We were so bored. We missed it. And they didn't lose immense amounts of knowledge over a long summer because they were only gone for 4 or 5 weeks. So that's kind of our model. That's who we are. Our mission is to serve those kids who don't feel like they fit anywhere else. We're kind of the island of misfit toys. But I want to share with you a video. Oh, someone messaged me. See, they're interested in the school. This is our promotional video that we did last spring, and it features Charlie. And I'll tell you a little bit about him at the end. Something really neat.
The school I go to is Freedom Prep.
Freedom Preparatory.
Freedom Prep.
Freedom Prep.
Freedom Prep.
Freedom Prep.
Freedom Preparatory.
As a public school kid my whole life, I like to say what I like more about Freedom Prep is it's way more relaxed.
They don't really race us to get everything done.
And easy to learn at your own pace, and it's just more freedom. They give me time for the things I need to work on.
What's different about Freedom Prep is that you don't have to do homework. Like, you have time to do things after school if you have sports. And it's only a 4-day week. And if you want to go on Fridays, you can do something fun and you can have a good time.
We get to learn super cool Bible stories. We get to learn about Jesus.
It is a school that you would get to learn about God and you would get to learn about the right things.
What I like about being here at Freedom Prep is it feels like a family.
It's amazing. They have kind people. They have amazing directors like Miss Fishmas and Miss McCosh.
Walk into a room and you just don't feel like scared that people are gonna judge you.
I have a friend that's like me, and she's really struggling. She has depression, anxiety, and she gets bullied for it. And I really want her to come here, but at my other school, they're not very nice. And basically, if you're not popular, you are tossed aside in the hallways and treated like trash.
What I like about here is that I actually get to see other people and have like friends to play with.
There's lots of people here that you can like just like depend on.
Everybody's nice and helps everybody.
I would tell someone to come to this school because it's fun.
Kids were never meant to fit in the same box. What if instead the box fit the kid? At Freedom Prep, our goal is to educate the whole child in the manner that works best for them. We stand on the truth of God's Word and seek to create students who are faithful disciples of Christ. Our vision is to create an environment where students love learning and find joy in school, and encourage students' originality and creativity both in and out of the classroom. Freedom Prep, unique education, Christian values. The young man that you saw that got emotional, that's my Charlie. That's my kid that his mom told me he'll never present in front of a class. He'll never read out loud. He's not a good writer. You wouldn't be able to tell a difference in him academically anymore. He's doing sophomore level classes this year, and he's doing fantastic. And the really cool thing, the girl he's talking about that he said gets emotional because she had been bullied her whole life, she's now a Freedom Prep student. Because her parents saw this video and said, "Is Charlie talking about Olivia?" And his mom said, "Yeah." And so Olivia now goes to Freedom Prep. And this week, her first comment after a day was, "Everybody's so nice here, and they don't care that I'm different." Isn't that what real education should be? Accepting each other's differences, putting our focus on their strengths and their attributes. And that's kind of the difference in what we do, and we continue to grow, and I know we have a bright future. I'm excited about what's to come in the future. But education needs to look different. It's time for it to look different. So thank you so much for letting us come and talk. We appreciate your time. And I'm guessing if you have questions.
Can we pack your members first? Please keep questions not saved.
We could probably get
Ma'am, I have a question. One question is, do you have a school guard at the entrance to school?
a school guard. You mean like security?
Yes, security.
We don't have a security guard, but we do have, all of our doors are locked and you have to be buzzed in. There's only one door that people can come in, and they have to be buzzed in by the administrative assistant at the front desk.
How do you deal with regulatory requirements with the state education requirements?
So we are registered as a non-accredited private school. So basically the state considers us a homeschool. So we have to follow the rules at any homeschool, which is a certain number of compulsory days, which I believe is 186. Is that right? I think 186. So we have to follow those rules. Our kids have to complete, our high school kids have to complete the same credits, the same courses as anyone else. And then I just build a transcript for them off of those same standards. We just don't have to follow the state education standards. We don't have to follow testing. We don't do any standardized testing. So we kind of are excused from those things, but we still follow what the state says for classes and that kind of thing.
So obviously you have some standards for your
Absolutely,
kids,
yeah.
your topics. So what about your teachers? Do they have standards that you use to decide who's going to teach these kids?
Yeah, I have, the majority of my teachers are certified teachers that have left the public school system for a number of reasons. I have several of them that are retired teachers, and they maybe didn't want to be done teaching, but they wanted to be done with the traditional model. And so those are most of who I've grabbed. I have a few that maybe they were long-term paras in classrooms, or they were homeschooling parents themselves, and so they totally understand our model, and they've been great teachers as well. But I do have a large number of certified teachers.
Thank you for being Thank you for being here. I really enjoyed it. Do you still have to concerning individual education plans for special ed, for counseling, for services, do you have to still serve them? Like, do you have special education psychologists or counseling come in, or speech paths?
So we partner with Play Therapy. They're a group on West Wichita that does speech, and they do OT and PT and those kinds of things, and they come into our school for those students who need it, but that's a private pay with the parents. Because we're a private school, we technically, legally, we don't have to follow an IEP. We do as much as we possibly can, and I'm very open with parents when they bring their kids that, you know, we're gonna do everything we can in the IEP, but it won't look exactly the same. So we offer those things when we can, but some of them they do have to outsource.
I'm curious if you plan to or want to take part in the tax credit scholarships that are offered, or what legislators might do to further you all.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I would love to have that option for our families. I think that the vouchers could provide a great resource for families. Yes. Okay, tax credit. Oh, I understand what you mean, the tax credit side. Yeah. Okay. So the tax credit, yes, that would be amazing. I mean, to me, it makes sense that your tax money goes where your children go, right? So to me, that makes sense. My hesitation is, of course, what legislation is wrapped around that. What are those boundaries that are put in place with that? So I think it would be making sure that those still meet the family's needs and that it's not tying us to something, you know, that's going to make things difficult for us, because we kind of like the way we do things and it's working really well. So, but I think it's a great opportunity for our families, and I pay taxes to the May school system and my kids don't go there. So I would love to, you know, have that opportunity for families.
In an ideal world, could this be adapted to public schools?
Could it be? Sure. But I don't think it's likely. To be able to have classrooms without grade levels takes a great deal of creativity. It takes a great deal of innovation. It takes a lot of movement. And I'm just not sure that the public school system, it would take a lot.
I can speak to that.
Yeah,
too.
Go ahead.
Just in regards to that visual I showed earlier, like the trend, what public schools are doing is actually the opposite. They are consolidating. They are not getting these small community schools as an option for families. So that's just not really what they value, unfortunately.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, in your current model, do you receive any government funds, or are you pretty much completely independently funded?
I don't receive any government funding. I intentionally do not receive government funding. I write grants. I've written a few recently. I'm currently working on one that's a very large sum, but no, I don't get any funding from the government at all. So it is fully based on my tuition and whatever money we can make doing fundraisers. So.
Yeah, I got a question. Everybody in this room is trying to get God back in the classroom and get him back to doing the basics, reading, science, math, and the rubber meets the road here. Are you guys doing anything to help support our efforts bringing those things back to the schools?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, we are a Christian school. Our kids across the entire building, K through 12, start their day with a Bible class. A lot of our classes have a devotional time as well. So from that point, absolutely. Academically, our approach is very much a back to basics approach. So our math curriculum is based on a skill at a time, which if you've been in education, it's a little of this and a little of that kind of put together, where we focus on one skill at a time, and once they've mastered that skill, they move on. That's a little more the way it was when I was a kid. We emphasize writing, especially our kids all learn how to write in cursive in kindergarten, because I don't know if you remember, but the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence are written in cursive, and if you can't write it, you probably can't read it. So we teach that from a very, very early age. We focus highly on English and grammar and, all of those skills. So our approach is very back to basics. We get rid of we don't have social emotional learning. We don't have all the extra. It's math, science, reading, history, real history. We learn American history. It's a back to basics approach 100%, as is any of the micro schools.
I've got a two-part question for both of you.
Sure.
How Freedom Prep handles students in the middle and high school if they're interested in participating in sports. And for Dalena, I'd like a question in terms of how the broader, all the schools in the area are involved, and whether it's anything from, obviously, football we're coming on is a big deal, but in many ways, men's basketball is number one. But I was curious, kids who have an interest in athletics, how they're handled in this environment.
I'll answer the sports one first. So I am really happy that there are a lot of homeschool groups that are offering sports for homeschoolers, and my son is in fact, I just run myself ragged, quite frankly, taking my son to football, my daughter to volleyball, and another son to football, and it's like there's just a lot offered there. They have passed legislation recently, I think it was SB 13, that allows for homeschool families or non-accredited private school students to be able to participate in sports in the public schools, which I think is a phenomenal thing. I think it just opens up more opportunities. I would love to see more of that type of legislation to provide more opportunities for families, and that goes along with the ESAs. I know there are a lot of families that cannot afford even to attend a Freedom Prep, even as low and as affordable as that is. So I really do want to see these ESAs be an option for families, and yet I also understand being kind of guarded for those that do not need it and don't want it. That's wonderful and that's great. That's kind of my stance personally for my family, and yet I have to look at all these other families out there that just can't afford and they have limited options. So I think the more legislation we can see in those regards, bringing more opportunities to the individual student is a good move.
Yeah, and for our kids, a lot of our kids participate in club sports and that kind of thing. We have a 9 and 10-year-old football team this year that they joined the Wichita City League, and they are the Patriots. That's our mascot. And so we actually have a little football team and cheerleaders, so that's fun. And then just last week, I actually got a very exciting phone call. Kenny Collins, he runs the Wichita Warriors homeschool program, and they have opened up their program to our students this year. So our middle and high school kids are getting to play most sports with the Wichita Warriors homeschool group. And if you don't know, they are actually really good. Their students do really, you didn't know that? Oh yeah, they do really well, and a lot of their kids go on to get college scholarships. So that has now been open for our kids for now. Eventually, I want to have sports. I'd like to have a whole gamut of sports, but I need a building with a gym and a football field and all those things before we get there. But for now, they do get to play with the homeschool groups.
Yeah. Sorry, I have to say there was a lot of discussion of slavery. Do you teach about slavery to the students?
Do I teach what? Slavery. Oh, slavery. Do we teach slavery? I mean, we teach about, it's part of American history. So we teach it as part of American history, and that it was a part of our history, and, it's part of our history. So, I mean, yes, we teach it from that aspect. We don't teach it from I don't even know what it's called. What do they call it?
Woke political.
Yeah, from the woke political, I can't remember what they call it. What is that called? CRT? CRT.
Right.
We don't do that.
Right.
We don't do that at all. I mean, all of our history is factual based, it's Bible based, it's truth based, so.
My son, when he was 5 years old, he was able to skip kindergarten. They took him into the first grade. Did you make them do that?
Absolutely. If it's what's right for them. All of our classes, if we really break it down to grade levels, they're all combo classes. So we have like a K1, a 1-2, a 2-3, a 3-4, a 4-5, so they kind of go where they need to be. We just name them instead of labeling by a grade level.
One more question, please. Do you provide a free lunch to the students?
We do not provide a free lunch. Boy, I wish we could. That is one thing. Last year we were able to offer hot lunches 2 days a week because we had a grandma that came in and did that. But I'm not on any food programs or anything like that. So right now they bring their own lunch, but we let them fix whatever they want. We have microwaves all over and an oven and an air fryer, and they kind of chef it up in the kitchen and make whatever they want. So, yeah, no. Yeah.
You're in an audience of everybody in here who's waiting for something like this to be presented. What could we do to help you guys? Is there literature? Is it students you need? Is it teachers? How can we help you?
All of the above and $1 million. I mean, honestly, our biggest need is always going to be funding. We've got to be very creative and find funding sources. I am the administrator, the owner, the creator. I am the special ed director of 36 kids on IEPs. I am the marketing and development committee. I am the public speaker. All of those hats I wear. Also, I do recess duty. I clean up. I'm the janitor. So I do a lot. So any of those things, we do require our families to do volunteer hours. So that kind of helps with some of those things. But, any resources that we could use a few more students, although we don't allow our class sizes to be larger than 20 ever. So, I do. I do have some cards with me if you want them. Our website is freedomprep-wichita.com. Kind of explains a little more what we do. But yeah, I mean, if you have great funding sources, I would love to know that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to add to what you guys can do. I would say just help us and be vigilant against policy that might infringe on prohibit us from being able to operate. Yeah. So Kansas Policy Institute has been incredible. They are very supportive. They're like watchdogs for us, and they're just like making sure that policy aligns with what we need to function. And so if you guys can help on that end, that would be incredible.
Definitely.
Another question is, can you give us like an example of how you teach reading, you use phonics, mathematics, you use the new math. Can you give us kind of a curriculum?
Sure.
How you do this?
So we have a large amount of kids in our school with dyslexia. They are one of the most underserved populations in public education. And so a lot of them come to us. So we actually use in our Ignite class, we use a program called the Sound Case. It was developed by Fundamental Learning Center. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're a school just for kids with dyslexia. Phenomenal program. But it is based on phonics, and it's very visual and very hands-on, which works really well for kids with dyslexia. So that's where we start. We follow that with Saxon Phonics, which is such an old program. We had to find it on eBay, but it is that back to basics phonetics approach. All of our reading programs are backed by what's it called? The sound of, oh my gosh, I can't think of any words today. Science of reading, which is the phonetical structure to reading. So we teach it that way. As far as math, we use a program called Math UC. Like, as I said, the base level is called Alpha, and it's all about addition. So they do single-digit addition, double-digit addition, addition with money, everything addition, and then they move on to Beta. Beta is double-digit, moves into subtraction. So they build on each other, and they have lots of manipulative. So it is all back to basics. My kids are never on a computer unless they're typing a paper. We don't use a lot of computers. We don't use a lot of technology. We help them learn how to use the brains that God gave them. So, yeah.
How are you doing prepping students for college, SATs, and things like that?
So our high school students participate in a class called Life 101 and Life 102, where we teach basic life skills. So last year for Life 101, our high school kids, they had to research jobs that they were interested in. They had to research colleges that had what they would need to get those jobs, or technical programs, that kind of thing. And they had to present, here's what I've learned, here's what I need, here's the kind of things I need. We taught them about taxes, we taught them about mortgages, we taught them about how to change a tire, how to change oil, all those life skills. And part of that for 102 this year is a section on ACT prep. And so we have someone coming in that's going to help prepare them for the ACT or SAT, whichever one they want to take, but do a prep class. And then we encourage them to go and take multiple of those to, so they can get practice in on that. But yeah, that's part of our life series. So this is only our second year. Last year I graduated one senior, and he's at WSU Tech doing the welding program now. This year I have 7 seniors. One of them is at two of them are at WSU Tech part-time. 4 of them are doing classes through Butler Online that we're giving them dual credit for right now. So when they graduate, they'll have at least a year, if not 2, under their belts, and then they'll be able to go on to college from there to a 4-year university if that's what they desire.
Hi, I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for coming here. I have a question, and until you mentioned the Matthew C thing, you had me 100%.
Oh, okay.
And I want to give you some context behind this. We're a homeschool family. My 2 oldest daughters, one of them graduated with a 3.95 from Friends. The other graduated summa cum laude from Wichita State. She's now a reporter at the Eagle. And again, they were raised through homeschooling. That being said, not all of our girls were able to learn with Matthew C. And every fall we would go to the homeschool convention, and we would explore different curriculums. And that's the big benefit of homeschool is you can teach your kids based on how their brains are wired for learning. I'm just curious, especially since you mentioned Matthew C., do you have multiple types of curriculum for things like math and others so they have those choices if they don't learn that way?
Absolutely, yes. So we actually started last year with a program called Singapore Math, and we thought, this is going to be great. And after about 3 weeks, we went, this doesn't work for the majority of our kids. So that's when we kind of got in with the Matthew C. Yes, if we have kids who don't do well with that kind of learning, which we do have some, our kids with dyscalculia, most of them use Stern Math, which is similar. It's got a lot of manipulatives, but it's designed for the dyslexic or dysgraphic or dyscalculia brain. We at the older level, we only use Matthew C through I think they go through Zeta, and then by middle school, they're moving on and they're doing more traditional math to prepare them for college level classes. So, but yes, if it does not work for one child, we'll find something else. We've got a few kids who do BJU, Bob Jones University math. They use some of theirs. We've got some kids who do teaching textbooks because that works better for them. So yeah, we absolutely allow kids, if it's not working for them, we'll find something else.
I have a granddaughter who's going to graduate from high school, I believe she's going to graduate also with the associate's degree. Do you help your kids do something similar to get college credit while they're still?
Yeah, that's what we have. Several kids that are doing classes through Butler online right now, and they do their classwork while they're at school. That way they have a teacher there if they need help, but they are getting college credit and high school credit at the same time. And then we have a lot of kids that are going towards WSU Tech, programs like that while you're in high school, those programs are free. My son went through the WSU Tech welding program. He makes more than I do, and he's 19. So we absolutely encourage kids to take those kinds of classes. So yes, absolutely.
As a former science teacher and a faculty member at the University of Iowa College of Medicine, I'm curious about how you teach the kids basic biology, chemistry, physics, coding, what are the skills that they can use as they go out in the world.
In our upper school, our high school level kids, we use Apologia Science. It's a faith-based science program, and we have students in physical science, biology, chemistry, and physics this year. We have the lab supplies there. We have a teacher that is a certified math and science teacher through high school, and so they get all of those same math or science skills as any other school would. It's just from a faith-based version.
I know you're a Christian school, but how are you guys handling the other side of the teaching of the world, at least for like the gender stuff and all that? And then secondly, we have 12 kids and it's a foreign school. They go to Northfield now. I just did the last out of Bishop Carroll. But they just started new sports programs, and at any point, if you guys want to get together with Northfield, there's 2 more Catholic schools that just opened that are independent from the diocese. So there's a lot of opportunity there for people to get together and work. But my question was the gender thing.
Yeah, so all of my kids in 7th through 12th grade at the end of last year were required to sign our statement of beliefs and our stance on social issues, which states that God created them male and female, and that is all we are going to acknowledge. And so how we handle teaching that is we teach Bible we teach worldview from a biblical worldview, and so we go straight to the Bible. I'm not going to say those things don't come up. We absolutely have conversations. I had 3 students last year that refused to sign the document, and they're not with us anymore because I wasn't going to let that into my school. So we approach it, but we go straight to the Bible. My requirement for my seniors when they are finishing their senior year for our Bible class, they have to be able to stand up and tell me what they believe, why they believe it, and how they back it up with Scripture. And if you know the Bible, you know that it does not support those alternative lifestyles, and it's very clear.
I just want to encourage you to talk to Representative Susan Humphreys about that tax credit program.
Okay.
So you really understand that, you can tell what it is.
Okay.
It's great.
I'll take the prerogative of the last question as the Vice President of the club. It's going to direct it over to Dalena, but Wise, how many schools are participating? How broad a geographic area does Wise cover? And is there a sort of does it include some of the better known non-public schooling, whether it's a Catholic diocese or like independent, collegiate, so on?
Yeah. We had an event in January of this year, and there were 14 microschools there, and there were about 400 students. And that was just the first time that we had ever brought all of our student body together, and that was only a fraction of our, we loosely have a loose membership. We're just now kind of defining what that is, and we have 12 members currently. I don't even know it's in the hundreds of kids, but there are over 20 microschools and homeschool co-ops. If we include those, it's probably over 100, literally. As far as the geographic area, you moved seats, you're over here now. As far as the geographic area, we go about an hour's radius, so out to El Dorado, we have some groups, to Abbeville, so far west, far east, and we have someone up in Newton. It's not quite anybody in, well, actually, is Garden Plain that way? No, Garden Plain's up there. Okay, there is somebody south. I just can't remember right now. But yeah, a pretty good geographic area, about within an hour's radius of Wichita. But we also have been kind of networking with groups up in Kansas City, Topeka, Manhattan. There's just a lot of growth there, and there's another hub of innovative educators up in the Kansas City area.
Let's give a big round of applause to Dalena, Wallace, Candace. I think they'll be around to